The rain descends in unyielding torrents, cloaking the city in a dismal veil of gray. It's a biting November morning in 2021, and Melissa Sanders, a veterinary technician, hastens through an abandoned lot, her sneakers squelching in the saturated earth. She's late for her shift at the downtown clinic, her breath forming fleeting mists in the icy air, her mind tethered to the bus she's on the verge of missing. The lot is a forsaken sprawl, tangled weeds clawing at the sky, broken bottles, glinting dully, rusted metal jutting from the ground like forgotten bones. It's a shortcut she's traversed countless times, eyes usually fixed ahead, unmindful of the desolation. But today, a shadow snags her attention, a dark form huddled against a pole, nearly swallowed by the storm's relentless curtain. Melissa halts, her heart stuttering as she squints through the deluge. At first, she mistakes it for a heap of discarded refuse, sodden and shapeless, abandoned to rot. Then it shifts, a faint trembling movement, and her stomach lurches. It's a dog, a German shepherd, female, chained to a rusted metal pole with a heavy chain so short she can barely lie down. The sight strikes like a physical blow. Her fur is matted with filth fused into solid, grimy plates that cling to her skeletal frame. Open sores weep where the chain has gnawed her neck raw, the flesh red and angry, glistening with infection. Her eyes, clouded with a milky haze, are a paradox. Alert, yet laden with a desolate blend of fear and resignation, tracking Melissa's every movement with a wary, almost pleading intensity. "Oh my God," Melissa whispers, her voice barely audible over the storm's roar. She edges closer, cautious, her pulse hammering in her ears. "How long have you been here?" The dog remains still, only flattening her ears slightly, her body rigid as if braced for a blow. The chain, thick and unyielding, is secured with a heavy padlock to a collar that has become embedded in her neck, a cruel relic of neglect that has grown with her, cutting deeper with each passing year. Nearby, a filthy plastic container holds stagnant rainwater, its surface scummed with algae, her only source of hydration. There's no food bowl, no shelter from the elements, just a circular track worn deep into the dirt, a grim testament to months, perhaps years, of captivity. The ground around her is littered with her own waste, a sickly odor mingling with the rain's clean scent. Melissa's bus rumbles past, its headlights slicing through the downpour, but she doesn't flinch. Her world has contracted to this suffering creature before her. She kneels at a safe distance, ignoring the cold mud seeping through her jeans. Her voice softens, steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I'm going to help you. I promise." The words feel like a vow, binding her to this moment. Her phone is out before she can second-guess herself, fingers fumbling in the wet as she dials the clinic. "I'll be late," she tells her supervisor, her tone clipped with urgency. "I found a dog. Not just a stray, this is deliberate neglect. The worst I've ever seen." Her words spill out, each one heavy with the weight of what she's witnessed. She describes the dog's condition, the matted fur, the sores, the chain, the eyes, her voice cracking as she fights to stay composed. The supervisor promises immediate action, and Melissa ends the call, her gaze never leaving the German shepherd. The rain continues its assault, soaking her to the bone, but she barely notices. She studies the dog, noting every detail. The way her ribs jut sharply beneath the matted fur, the faint tremble in her limbs, the way her ears twitch at the sound of distant thunder. The collar embedded in her neck is a particular horror, its edges cutting into swollen, infected flesh. Melissa's mind races, imagining the years of suffering that led to this moment. Who could do this? Who could leave a living creature to endure such torment? The questions churn unanswered, fueling a quiet rage that steadies her resolve. Within 30 minutes, a van pulls up, its tires crunching on the wet gravel of the lot's edge. Dr. Richards, the clinic's owner, steps out, his face grim beneath an umbrella. Two vet techs follow, carrying a transport crate, a muzzle, and bolt cutters. Their expressions darken as they take in the scene, the dog's condition a silent indictment of cruelty. "This is criminal," Dr. Richards mutters, his voice low and taut with disgust. Absolutely criminal. He kneels beside Melissa, assessing the dog with a practiced eye. The techs move with quiet efficiency, setting up the crate and preparing. The muzzle, their movements careful to avoid startling the animal. The rescue unfolds with an eerie calm. The German Shepherd, too weak or perhaps too broken to resist, allows the muzzle to be slipped over her snout. The bolt cutters snap through the chain with a sharp, resonant clang, the sound cutting through the rain like a declaration of freedom. As they lift her into the crate, her frail body trembling, her gaze locks onto Melissa's. Something passes between them. A silent connection, a flicker of trust in a world that has offered none. It's a moment that sears itself into Melissa's memory, a promise sealed in the dog's haunted eyes. "We'll call her Hope," Dr. Richards suggests as they load the crate into the van, his voice softening with a trace of optimism. Melissa shakes her head, still holding the dog's gaze through the crate's bars. "No, her name is Duchess," she says firmly. "I don't know why, but it's her name. She's not what they made her. She's who she was meant to be." The words come from a place she can't name, an instinct that feels both foreign and undeniable. Dr. Richards nods, respecting her certainty, and the van's doors close with a thud. The rain pounds the empty lot as the van pulls away, its taillights fading into the storm's gray haze. Melissa stands alone for a moment, the weight of what she's witnessed settling into her bones. She doesn't yet grasp that the chain they've severed is only the most visible of the bonds imprisoning Duchess, and that breaking the others, fear, trauma, despair, will demand a courage she's never had to summon before. The abandoned lot, now silent save for the rain-steady drum, holds the echo of a promise that will reshape lives in ways no one could foresee. As Melissa turns to follow the van, her soaked clothes clinging to her skin, she feels the first stirrings of a purpose that will define her path forward. The veterinary clinic pulses with a controlled frenzy, a symphony of beeping monitors, the sharp bite of antiseptic in the air, and the soft, plaintive whimpers of animals in recovery. It's late afternoon on that same rain-soaked November day in 2021, and Duchess, the German Shepherd rescued mere hours ago, lies in an intensive care kennel, her frail body swathed in bandages and sedated into a fragile peace. Melissa Sanders, her shift long expired, lingers by the kennel, her eyes tracing the dog's emaciated form with a mix of anguish and resolve. The sterile fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows, illuminating the brutal reality of Duchess's condition, a living testament to cruelty's enduring scars. The examination, conducted with grim efficiency by the clinic's team, has laid bare a catalog of horrors. Duchess's body is a map of suffering, ribs and hip bones jutting sharply beneath her skin, pressure sores festering with infection, untreated bacterial growths spreading across her hide. Her teeth are broken, jagged remnants, in a mouth that has known no care, and her paw pads are worn raw, cracked from endless pacing on unforgiving ground. Most harrowing is her neck, where the collar, once a simple restraint, has become partially embedded, its edges cutting into swollen, infected flesh as she grew, a grotesque symbol of her prolonged captivity. Melissa, who assisted in the initial assessment, still feels the weight of each discovery, each wound a silent accusation of neglect. She's severely malnourished and dehydrated, Dr. Richards, the clinic's owner, reports, his voice heavy with a mix of professional detachment and barely concealed disgust. Multiple infections, anemia, likely heartworm positive. Frankly, it's a miracle she's still alive. Melissa nods, her throat constricting, her fingers gripping the kennel's edge as if to anchor herself. She spent hours helping shave away the matted fur, a painstaking process that required sedation to spare Duchess further pain. Beneath the layers of filth, a purebred German Shepherd, perhaps 3 years old, has begun to emerge, a ghost of the majestic creature she might have been. She must have been beautiful once, Dr. Matthews, the senior veterinarian, observes, her tone tinged with wistful hope. And she could be again with proper care. Melissa's response is immediate, fierce, and unyielding. She will be. I'll foster her through recovery. The declaration catches her off guard, echoing in the sterile air like a vow she didn't know she was ready to make. Her life is ill-suited for such a commitment. Her small apartment strictly forbids pets, her hours at the clinic are relentless, and she's never owned a dog as an adult. Yet something about Duchess has ignited a protective instinct, a pull so deep it defies logic. Dr. Richards, his brow furrowed, cautions her gently. "Melissa, this dog needs months of rehabilitation, medical and behavioral. We have no idea what she's endured, what traumas she carries." His words are a sobering reminder of the challenge ahead, but Melissa stands firm, her voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at her. "I'll figure it out. I need to do this." The clinic's bustle continues around them, but for Melissa, time seems to slow. She watches Duchess's shallow breathing, the rise and fall of her bandaged chest, and feels a connection that transcends the clinical setting. The dog's resilience, even in this broken state, is palpable. No aggression, no bared teeth, only a watchful weariness that speaks of survival against impossible odds. Melissa's mind replays the rescue, the moment their eyes met in the rain-soaked lot, the silent promise she made. That promise now binds her to this creature, a responsibility she cannot, will not, shirk. By evening, Duchess is stabilized, her condition still critical, but no longer teetering on the edge of collapse. Sedated and bandaged, she sleeps in the kennel, a tangle of IV lines and monitors ensuring her fragile hold on life. Melissa, ignoring her own exhaustion, begins making calls. To her landlord, she pleads for an exception to the no pets policy, her voice earnest but met with skepticism. To friends, she searches for alternative housing, each conversation a desperate bid for a solution. To rescue organizations, she begs for support, detailing Duchess's plight with a passion that surprises even her. The hours slip away, the clinic growing quieter as night falls, but Melissa's determination only sharpens. The breakthrough comes unexpectedly, a flicker of hope in the gathering dark. Laura Chen, a longtime clinic client whose elderly golden retriever passed away months ago, calls after seeing a photo of Duchess on the clinic's private social media update. "I have a house with a fenced yard," Laura explains, her voice warm with empathy. "I work from home, and I'm not ready for another dog of my own yet, but I'd be happy to provide space for this one during her recovery." The offer is a lifeline, the first in a series of small miracles that will define Duchess's journey. Melissa's relief is palpable, though the logistics remain daunting. Arrangements are swiftly made. Duchess will remain at the clinic for initial stabilization, then transfer to Laura's home, where Melissa will visit daily to provide hands-on care. In the kennel's quiet, Melissa sits by Duchess, the hum of the monitors a steady backdrop. She studies the dog's face, noting the subtle signs of resilience, a slight relaxation in her posture, the absence of defensive posturing despite her pain. She's either never known kindness or forgotten it existed, Dr. Matthews observes, pausing by the kennel. She points out how Duchess flinches at sudden movements but leans almost imperceptibly toward gentle contact, a hand hovering near, a voice softened to soothe. It's a glimmer of hope, a sign that beneath the trauma lies a spirit waiting to be reclaimed. As the days unfold, subtle changes begin to surface. A faint tail wag, so fleeting it might have been missed if Melissa hadn't been watching closely. The first deep, untroubled sleep, free from the tension that once gripped her. The cautious acceptance of a treat from Melissa's open palm, a moment of trust that feels like a victory. Today she made eye contact for 5 full seconds without looking away, Melissa writes in her journal on day 7, her handwriting shaky with emotion. There's someone in there waiting to be found. The clinic staff, hardened by years of treating injured animals, marvel at Duchess's spirit, their voices hushed with respect. But Melissa knows the road ahead is long, a marathon of healing that will demand patience, expertise, and unwavering commitment. The clinic's lights dim as the night shift takes over, but Melissa remains, her presence a quiet vigil. The physical wounds, grievous as they are only the beginning. The psychological scars, etched by years of neglect and isolation, run far deeper, and healing them will test everyone involved. As she watches Duchess sleep, Melissa feels the weight of her promise settle into her bones, a calling that will reshape her life in ways she cannot yet imagine. Laura Chen's home is a sanctuary of serenity, a stark contrast to the clinical bustle of the veterinary clinic. The spare bedroom, meticulously prepared for Duchess, exudes quiet comfort. A plush dog bed nestled in one corner, a stainless steel water bowl gleaming softly, and an open crate positioned as a safe retreat, its door removed to signal freedom. Large windows overlook a fenced backyard, where sunlight filters through bare November branches, casting dappled patterns across the hardwood floor. It's early December 2021, and Duchess, the German shepherd rescued from a rain-soaked nightmare, arrives with Melissa Sanders, her steps tentative, her eyes scanning every inch of this unfamiliar space with a wary precision. Dr. Matthews' parting advice echoes in Melissa's mind. Let her set the pace. Her physical wounds are just the surface. The psychological recovery may take much longer. For days, Duchess remains a shadow in the room, huddling in a corner with her back pressed against the wall, her body curled tightly as if to shield herself from an unseen threat. She accepts food and medication, delivered with careful distance by Laura, and uses the puppy pads provided, too afraid to venture outside into the yard. But she is disconnected, present in body but absent in spirit, her eyes holding that same haunted watchfulness Melissa first saw in the abandoned lot. Melissa visits daily after her clinic shifts, settling onto the floor at a respectful distance, reading aloud from a worn paperback novel. The consultant behaviorist's suggestion that the sound of a calm human voice could rebuild positive associations without pressure guides her approach. She chooses a gentle tone, letting the words of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice fill the room, hoping the rhythm might soothe Duchess's fractured trust. Laura, working from home, becomes an inadvertent observer of Duchess's subtle shifts. She notices a faint relaxation in the dog's posture after Melissa's visits, a fleeting glance of curiosity when a bird flits past the window. On the fifth day, Laura sends Melissa a text that stops her mid-stride at the clinic. A photo of Duchess still in her corner, but with her head resting on the edge of the dog bed Laura had placed nearby, a tentative step beyond her self-imposed boundary. The image is a spark of hope, and Melissa's response is a single word: progress, paired with a heart emoji. She saves the photo to her phone, adding it to a growing digital album of Duchess's journey, a quiet testament to the dog's resilience. The first major breakthrough comes during the third week, a moment that feels like a turning point. Melissa arrives at Laura's home, her breath visible in the crisp evening air, to find Laura sitting cross-legged on the floor, her laptop balanced on her knees as she types. Duchess is asleep on the dog bed, just 4 feet away. The first time she's chosen the comfort of the bed over the cold floor of her corner. The sight stops Melissa in the doorway, her heart swelling. She did it on her own. Laura whispers, barely audible, her eyes bright with awe. I didn't coax her, didn't offer a treat. I came into work, and after about an hour, she moved to the bed. The moment is fragile, a delicate thread of trust woven in the quiet, and Melissa holds her breath, afraid to disrupt it. That night, Melissa positions herself on the floor near Duchess's bed, closer than before, continuing her reading. The words of Austen's prose flow softly, a steady cadence meant to anchor without overwhelming. For nearly an hour, nothing changes. Duchess remains still, her breathing even, her eyes half closed but ever watchful. Then, as Melissa prepares to leave, gathering her book and scarf, it happens. Duchess extends her neck forward, her nose delicately sniffing Melissa's hand where it rests on the floor. The contact is fleeting, less than 2 seconds, and Duchess retreats immediately to her safe position, curling tightly. But it was deliberate, an intentional choice to reach out, rather than withdraw. Melissa maintains her calm exterior, her voice a soft murmur. "Good girl," she says, resuming her reading for another 10 minutes to reinforce the moment's safety. When she finally rises, her departure unhurried, she steps outside to her car and lets the tears come. Tears of relief, hope, and profound privilege at witnessing such courage in a creature who has every reason to reject human touch. Physically, Duchess is undergoing a remarkable transformation. With proper nutrition, her ribs are less starkly visible, her coat beginning to grow in with a surprising luster that hints at her purebred lineage. The infections that once ravaged her body have cleared, and the surgical wound on her neck where the embedded collar was removed is healing cleanly, leaving only a faint scar. Her natural beauty is emerging, a German shepherd with exceptional conformation, her markings distinctive and striking. "Someone paid a lot of money for her as a puppy," the shelter veterinarian remarks during a visit to evaluate her progress, his tone bitter. "Then abandoned her to that hell." The words linger, a reminder of the betrayal Duchess endured, but also of the resilience that has carried her this far. By the end of the first month, Duchess has begun to explore the spare room. Her movements, cautious but curious. She ventures briefly into the hallway, her nose twitching at the unfamiliar sense of Laura's home. She accepts treats directly from Melissa and Laura, her hesitancy softening with each interaction, and responds to simple, verbal cues, her name a gentle come with a tentative obedience. There is no aggression, only that watchful weariness, as if she's constantly bracing for the world to betray her again. Melissa documents these milestones for the clinic's records, her notes meticulous, a chronicle of small victories. But one moment captured on video changes everything. She films Duchess placing her head in her lap, a fleeting gesture of trust, and shares it on her private social media for friends following the rescue story. Someone shares it, then another, and within 24 hours the 90-second clip has been viewed over 100,000 times. The image of Duchess, still visibly scarred, her body bearing the marks of her ordeal but choosing to lean into Melissa's touch, strikes a universal chord. The caption, "The moment a formerly abused dog chooses to trust again," spreads, with the video resonating far beyond Melissa's small circle. Comments flood in, thousands of strangers sharing their own rescue stories or simply expressing raw emotion. The video's viral spread is unexpected, a ripple that begins to swell into a wave, drawing attention to Duchess's story and the broader plight of neglected animals. In Laura's quiet home, however, the world's clamor feels distant. Duchess remains the same, cautious, resilient, slowly reclaiming herself. As Melissa sits with her that evening reading aloud, she feels the weight of this new responsibility, not just to Duchess, but to the countless others her story might reach. The spare room, bathed in the soft glow of a bedside lamp, is no longer just a refuge. It's the crucible where a transformation is taking shape, one that will soon touch lives far beyond these walls. The quiet rehabilitation of Duchess, the German shepherd rescued from a chained existence, transforms into a global phenomenon by January 2026, propelled by a viral video that captures her tentative trust. The 90-second clip, showing Duchess placing her head in Melissa Sanders' lap, has amassed over 100,000 views in a single day. Its caption, "The moment a formerly abused dog chooses to trust again," resonating with a universal ache for redemption. Melissa, a veterinary technician who found Duchess in a rain-soaked lot, and Laura Chen, the clinic client providing her a home, find themselves at the center of an unexpected spotlight. The video, originally shared privately for friends, has been reposted across social media, igniting a flood of comments, shares, and stories from strangers worldwide, many recounting their own experiences with rescued animals. The image of Duchess, scarred yet choosing vulnerability, strikes a chord that transcends borders, turning her journey into a beacon of hope. Local news stations are the first to seize the story, their vans pulling up to Laura's modest home with its fenced yard. Melissa and Laura sit side by side on Laura's couch, a camera's red light blinking as a reporter asks about the rescue. Melissa's voice is steady, but thick with emotion as she describes finding Duchess chained to a pole, her body a map of neglect. Laura, softer spoken, explains her role, her eyes glistening when she mentions Duchess's first steps toward trust. The segment airs that evening, and by morning it's picked up by a national morning show, which invites them for a feature in its Heroes Among Us series. The production team flies to the city, setting up in the veterinary clinic where Duchess was first treated. Melissa, standing beside a gleaming exam table, recounts the rescue with a quiet intensity, while Laura shares how Duchess's presence has filled the void left by her late golden retriever. Duchess herself, now stronger, sits calmly at Melissa's side, her glossy coat a stark contrast to her former state, her eyes alert but serene. The national feature airs to millions, amplifying the story's reach. Melissa, recognizing the platform, creates a dedicated social media account for Duchess, channeling the attention into education about animal rescue and rehabilitation. She posts updates on Duchess's progress, photos of her exploring Laura's backyard, videos of her responding to simple commands, paired with facts about neglect and the resources needed for recovery. The account gains followers rapidly, each post sparking thousands of likes and shares. Donations begin to arrive, first in small amounts: a $5 contribution from a college student, a $10 gift from a retiree, then larger sums from viewers moved by Duchess's transformation. The funds, initially overwhelming, prompt Melissa and Laura to establish Duchess's Second Chance, a nonprofit to manage the money responsibly and support other neglected animals requiring specialized rehabilitation. Laura, with her administrative background, takes on the task of structuring the organization, while Melissa focuses on outreach, her evenings spent drafting posts and responding to messages from supporters. By her third month of recovery, Duchess is a different dog. Proper nutrition has filled out her frame, her ribs no longer starkly visible. Her heartworm treatment, a grueling but necessary process, is complete, and she's begun basic training, revealing an intelligence and responsiveness that astonish the clinic staff. The frightened creature from the chain is fading, replaced by a German shepherd who carries herself with a quiet dignity. Her bond with Melissa deepens. She seeks her out for reassurance, positioning herself as a physical anchor when Melissa is tired, or resting her head gently in her lap during moments of stress. This intuitive connection catches the attention of Dr. Carter, a behavioral veterinarian consulting on Duchess's case. She shows natural empathy, he tells Melissa during a visit to Laura's home. Her trauma may have created specialized neural pathways for emotional detection, a sensitivity that can't be trained. He suggests a formal evaluation for therapy dog training, a prospect Melissa initially resists. She's still recovering, she protests, her protective instinct flaring. Isn't that asking too much? Dr. Carter counters. It might be exactly what she needs. Many rescue dogs thrive with purpose. Despite her reservations, Melissa agrees, and Duchess undergoes the evaluation. To everyone's surprise, except perhaps Dr. Carter's, she excels, maintaining calm focus in distracting environments, displaying appropriate social behavior with strangers, and demonstrating that uncanny empathy. She responds to cues with precision, her gaze steady, her demeanor a blend of alertness and tranquility. The evaluators note her ability to read human emotional states, a skill honed, they speculate, by her own survival through trauma. By spring, Duchess is certified as a therapy dog, her vest a symbol of her transformation from victim to healer. 6 months after her rescue, Duchess attends a fundraiser for the foundation, held in a community center adorned with banners bearing her name. Wearing her therapy dog vest, she moves through the crowd with a grace that belies her past. Her transformation is so complete that many attendees, familiar with her story from social media, struggle to recognize her. Her coat, now glossy and full, catches the light, and her eyes, once clouded, shine with quiet confidence. Children are drawn to her, their small hands reaching out, and Duchess responds with remarkable gentleness despite having no prior positive experiences with young humans. Her regal presence, neither arrogant nor timid, earns murmurs of admiration, one attendee noting, "She carries herself like royalty," unknowingly echoing the name Melissa chose that fateful day. The foundation has grown beyond its founders' expectations, now supporting specialized rehabilitation for dozens of severely neglected animals. Melissa has reduced her hours at the clinic to accommodate her expanding role in the organization, her days split between administrative tasks and hands-on work with Duchess. Laura, whose temporary offer to house Duchess evolved into a permanent arrangement, has become the foundation's administrative director, her home remaining Duchess's safe haven. The spare bedroom, once a refuge for a broken dog, is now a space Duchess occupies confidently, her crate unused, her bed a throne of sorts. A neurologist from the regional children's hospital reaches out, intrigued by Duchess's story and her therapy certification. She proposes a trial program, integrating Duchess into therapy sessions for long-term patients facing psychological challenges alongside physical ones. The first visit is meticulously planned, with Melissa and Dr. Patel, the hospital's integration therapy director, briefing the staff on Duchess's capabilities. The results are revelatory. Duchess adjusts her approach to each child's needs. Playful with an energetic 6-year-old recovering from surgery, she bounds gently, eliciting giggles. With a withdrawn teenager bearing severe burns, she rests, her head on his bed maintaining calm eye contact until he reaches out, a breakthrough his therapists hadn't achieved. She knows what each child needs, Dr. Patel marvels, her voice hushed with awe. Regular visits follow, and Duchess's presence yields profound connections, particularly with nonverbal children who communicate through touch or whispers, expressing what words cannot. Researchers, studying her impact, suggest her trauma history enhances her emotional sensitivity, forging bonds that transcend ordinary therapy. The spotlight on Duchess grows, but her work remains grounded in quiet moments of connection. As Melissa watches her navigate the hospital's pediatric wing, she feels the weight of a journey that began in a rain-soaked lot, now illuminating lives far beyond their small city. The Foundation's mission expands, fueled by Duchess's story, a testament to the transformative power of compassion. It's a tense Tuesday afternoon in late 2022, and the regional children's hospital is a hive of controlled chaos. A bus carrying children from a Special Olympics training event has crashed on the highway, leaving multiple injuries and a wave of traumatized young passengers. Melissa Sanders receives an urgent call from Laura Chen, her voice tight with urgency. "They're asking if you and Duchess can come. They're setting up a crisis response area for the children who aren't physically injured but are showing trauma reactions." Within 30 minutes, Melissa and Duchess, the German Shepherd whose rescue sparked a movement, arrive at the hospital. The air hums with the urgency of medical teams, but Duchess, now a certified therapy dog, moves with a calm purpose, her therapy vest a badge of her transformation from chained captive to healer. Dr. Patel, the hospital's integration therapy director, meets them at the staff entrance, her face etched with strain. "We have a room set up for about 15 children who've been medically cleared but are showing signs of acute stress," she explains, leading them through bustling corridors. Many are nonverbal at baseline or have gone nonverbal from shock. The room, a quiet corner of the pediatric wing, is a stark contrast to the hospital's frenetic pace. Inside, children with various special needs sit or lie on cots, some crying softly, others completely withdrawn, a few displaying repetitive self-soothing behaviors, rocking, hand-flapping, or tapping. The child psychologist and social workers, visibly overwhelmed, struggle to manage the collective trauma, their voices gentle but strained. The air feels heavy, charged with fear and disorientation. Duchess pauses at the threshold, her body language shifting into her working mode, ears alert, posture relaxed, fully present, her eyes, once clouded with infection, now gleam with a quiet intensity, scanning the room with an almost uncanny awareness. Without specific direction, she begins moving through the space, her steps deliberate, approaching each child with a careful consideration that belies her canine nature. What unfolds over the next 3 hours is later described by Dr. Patel as triage of the soul, a profound intervention that transcends traditional therapy. Duchess prioritizes those in the most acute distress, offering a grounding physical presence that seems to anchor the room's chaos. She approaches a boy, perhaps 10, who is hitting himself, his fists striking his thighs in a rhythmic, desperate cadence. Duchess presses her body gently against his legs, her warmth and weight a steady counterpoint to his agitation. Gradually, the motion slows, then ceases, his hands falling limp as he leans into her, his breathing evening out. For a girl no older than 8, crying silently in a corner, Duchess lowers herself to the floor and places her head gently in the child's lap, her eyes soft but unwavering. The girl's sobs quiet, her fingers hesitantly stroking Duchess's fur, finding solace in the contact. Most remarkable is her interaction with a severely autistic teenager who has retreated completely inward, his body rigid, his gaze fixed on some unseen point. Duchess approaches differently, sensing his need for space. She positions herself nearby, not touching but close enough to offer a protective presence, her body a calm anchor. Minutes pass, then his posture softens, his eyes shifting to the patient, Shepherd beside him. When he reaches one hand to touch her ear, the social worker gasps. It's the first responsive action he's shown since the accident. "She's doing what we can't," Dr. Patel whispers to Melissa, her voice thick with awe, creating safety that transcends verbal reassurance. For over 3 hours, Duchess works tirelessly, addressing wounds invisible but as critical as any physical injury, fear, shock, the disorientation of sudden trauma. Parents arriving in waves are astonished by the transformation in their children. Those who were unreachable now communicate, whether through halting words, tentative signs, or restored eye contact. One mother, tears streaming, hugs Melissa, whispering, "She brought my daughter back to me." The room, once heavy with despair, begins to lighten, the children's faces softening under Duchess's quiet influence. Melissa, standing to the side, watches with a mix of pride and humility, marveling at the dog who, less than a year ago, was herself a prisoner of trauma. As the crisis stabilizes, Dr. Patel pulls Melissa aside. "What Duchess did today wasn't just therapy. It was crisis response at a level I've never seen from an animal. We need to document this properly." The hospital administration agrees, and in the weeks that follow, they develop a formal protocol for animal-assisted crisis intervention, with Duchess as the model. Behavioral experts analyze her intuitive approaches, her ability to prioritize distress, her calibrated responses to individual needs, and translate them into training, guidelines for other therapy dogs. Yet all acknowledge that Duchess's abilities are uniquely enhanced, likely a product of her own trauma, which has forged a profound sensitivity to human suffering. A year after her rescue, in November 2022, the city gathers in the town square for a ceremony that cements Duchess's legacy. The mayor unveils a life-sized bronze statue of the German Shepherd, depicted in her therapy pose, alert, calm, embodying a quiet strength that has become her hallmark. The crowd, hundreds strong, includes hospital staff, foundation supporters, and families touched by Duchess's work. "This monument stands not just for one dog's remarkable story," the mayor announces, "but for the transformative power of compassion in our community and beyond." Duchess, sitting regally beside Melissa, seems to understand the moment's weight, her eyes scanning the crowd with a serene dignity. By 2024, 3 years post-rescue, Duchess is in her prime, a magnificent example of her breed. Her glossy coat belies her traumatic beginnings, with only a small patch of white scar tissue on her neck, as a reminder of the chain that once bound her. Duchess's Second Chance has grown into a nationally recognized organization, supporting specialized rehabilitation for countless neglected animals. The crisis response protocol, built on Duchess's work, has been adopted by emergency services in 7 states, with data showing improved outcomes for trauma victims. Duchess's law, passed by the state legislature, strengthens penalties for animal abandonment and mandates psychological evaluations for certain animal cruelty cases, a legal triumph inspired by her story. Duchess's most profound impact lies in her work with trauma survivors. From veterans with PTSD to children recovering from abuse, she displays an uncanny ability to connect with those whose experiences mirror her own: violation, helplessness, survival. Dr. Landry, the psychologist heading the Foundation's clinical programs, observes, "She creates a bridge across trauma, communicating, 'I know what darkness feels like, and I'm here with you.'" Melissa, now a full-time animal-assisted therapist with the Foundation, has left her veterinary technician role, her life reshaped by the dog she impulsively vowed to save. At a quiet moment during a Foundation event, Duchess approaches a young woman in a wheelchair, recently referred after an accident left her with PTSD. With particular attentiveness, Duchess places her head in the woman's lap, offering silent connection. The moment captures Duchess's essence, her intuitive recognition of suffering, her willing engagement, her generous offering of her own hard-won wholeness. As the event continues, Melissa reflects on Duchess's journey, from a chained prisoner to a healer whose compassion ripples outward. The German Shepherd, once defined by a chain, has forged connections that heal. Her legacy a testament not to what happened to her, but to how she transformed it, touching countless lives with extraordinary light.